Hi, Catholic Sentry fam. Welcome back to where we keep it real with biblical truth and Catholic faith. Today we're tackling a video by YouTube's Truth Unites, aka Gavin Ortlund, called Protestants Honor Mary Correctly. It claims Catholics go too far with Mary, even saying Pope Francis makes her devotion obligatory for salvation. Spoiler alert, that's a straight-up lie. We're gonna break this down with simple, biblical, and historical facts to expose Protestant distortions, including how their founders twisted scripture and demonized Catholics. Let's dive in. Alright, Gavin says Protestants honor Mary just right, but Catholics overdo it, making her devotion a must for salvation and forgetting Jesus. They even claim Pope Francis calls Marian dogmas, like the Immaculate Conception and Assumption, obligatory for faith. This is a classic Protestant move. Misrepresent Catholic teaching, stir up fear, and dodge the Bible's full truth. First off, Catholics don't worship Mary. We venerate her. Big difference. Worship is for God alone. Veneration is giving honor to holy people like Mary, the Mother of God. Gavin claims Pope Francis said devotion to Mary is obligatory for salvation. That's a lie. The video references a 2017 statement where Pope Francis encouraged devotion to Mary as a way to grow closer to Jesus, not as a salvation requirement. The Catholic Church teaches salvation comes through Christ's grace, received through faith and baptism. Catechism, 1257. Marian devotion is a beautiful, optional practice to deepen that faith, not a ticket to heaven. The video also says dogmas like the Immaculate Conception and Assumption are required beliefs that change Christian doctrine. Wrong again. These dogmas, defined in 1854 and 1950, affirm Mary's unique role, sinless by God's grace and assumed into heaven, because she carried Jesus, who is God. They don't change doctrine, they clarify it, rooted in Scripture and tradition. Luke 1:28 calls Mary full of grace, implying her sinlessness, and Revelation 12.1 depicts a woman in heaven, which the Church sees as Mary. These beliefs point to Christ's divinity, not away from it. That's a tired Protestant caricature. Catholics honor Mary because she's the Mother of God, called Theotokos at the Council of Ephesus in 431, which Protestants like Ortlund accept. But here's the catch. They cherry-pick what to believe about her. The Bible shows Mary's special role. Elizabeth calls her the Mother of my Lord, Luke 1:43, and Jesus entrusts her to John at the cross, John 19:27. Catholics see her as our spiritual mother, praying for us, Revelation 5:8. Honoring her doesn't steal from Jesus. It glorifies him, just like praising a painting honors the artist. Protestants often paint Catholics as idol worshippers to scare people away from the Church. This comes from a long history of anti-Catholic prejudice, and videos like this keep it alive, feeding clicks and book sales while misrepresenting our faith. It's not about truth. It's about keeping the Protestant narrative alive. Let's talk about the Protestant reformers, guys like Martin Luther and John Calvin. Gavin admits they honored Mary as Theotokos, but let's not sugarcoat it. They also trashed Catholic practices to push their agenda. Luther believed in Mary's perpetual virginity, and even her Immaculate Conception, saying in 1532, "She is full of grace, proclaimed to be entirely without sin." But he also called Catholic devotion idolatry to justify breaking from the Church, twisting Scripture like Romans 3:28 by adding alone to push sola fide, a word not in the original Greek. That's not interpreting Scripture. That's rewriting it to fit his pride. Calvin wasn't much better. He admitted Mary's perpetual virginity might be true, but mocked Catholics for honoring her, calling it superstition. Both reformers cherry-picked verses to downplay good works and tradition, ignoring James 2:17, which says faith without works is dead. Their beef with Mary wasn't about Scripture, it was about rejecting the Church's authority. Over time, their followers ditched even their limited respect for Mary, leaving modern Protestants with a watered-down view that barely acknowledges her biblical role. The early Christians, way before the Reformation, venerated Mary. The Council of Ephesus in 431 declared her Theotokos to defend Jesus' divinity, not to worship her. Early church fathers like Augustine said Mary was full of grace and sinless by God's gift. By the 4th century, prayers like the Sub Tuum Praesidium asked for Mary's intercession. This wasn't medieval fluff. It was apostolic tradition, rooted in Scripture's view of the saints praying for us, Hebrews 12:1. Protestants like Gavin claim Catholic dogmas like the Assumption came late, but that's misleading. Early Christian writings, like those of Epiphanius in 377, discuss Mary's possible Assumption, and widespread traditions by the 5th century support it. Protestants ignore this history because it doesn't fit their sola scriptura lens, which Luther invented to ditch the Church's authority. They're not reclaiming the early Church. They're rewriting it. Here's the real talk. YouTubers like Gavin make a living off Protestant books and videos that often twist Catholic teaching to keep their audience hooked. Misrepresenting Pope Francis or Catholic dogmas gets clicks, sells books, and feeds their families. But it's not always about truth. Ortlund's channel, while polite, pushes a narrative that demonizes Catholic practices to make Protestantism seem superior. It's subtle, but it's there. The Bible warns against false teachers who distort the truth. Acts 20:30. Catholics aren't perfect, but we don't need to lie about Protestant beliefs to defend our faith. We stick to Scripture, tradition, and reason. Gavin wants you to think Catholics idolize Mary and that Pope Francis demands devotion for salvation. That's a lie built on Protestant distortions, not facts. The Bible, early Church, and even early Reformers honored Mary as the Mother of God. Catholics venerate her because she leads us to Jesus, not because we worship her. Don't fall for the anti-Catholic spin. Check the Scriptures and history for yourself. Mary's yes to God, Luke 1:38, is our model for saying yes to Christ. Catholic Sentry fam, did this clear up the lies about Mary? Smash that like button, share with your crew, and subscribe for more truth bombs. Drop a comment. What other Protestant claims should we tackle? Stay bold. Stay Catholic. See you next time.